Hey everybody, Yankee here. I want to do a little video here today dealing with people who just want you to be upset all the time. People who want to make you mad and how they use half-truths and partial stories to do that. And I want to give everybody a little bit of advice. The thing we were dealing with tonight in my live chat is someone came on practically enraged, full of white-hot rage, spilling out of their ears over the fact that Canadian police have just given up to the criminals. They tell people, you should just give in to the criminals. And the story was that police have told people that, hey, start leaving your keys on your front porch so people stealing your car can just come up and get the key and steal your car. And I'm like, well, that can't be true. That sounds stupid. So we did a little research online to find out what was behind the story. And it turns out, a lot of people are running with this. Someone told me Colin Noir did a story on it, saying, oh, they've just given up to the police, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And surrender your freedom to the criminals, that kind of mindset. And I'm like, that sounds a little severe. Most stories aren't this severe. So I wanted to go look it up. So we looked it up, and it turned out what really happened is, no, the police department in Toronto didn't put out an edict to people to leave your keys on your front porch and surrender to criminals. There was one officer that was in a town hall in a small town near Toronto who, when asked by someone in the crowd, when confronted with the idea that this person was afraid someone was going to break into their house and confront them and they were going to be harmed by someone who was trying to steal their car, he suggested, if that is something you're worried about, you can always leave your key in a lockbox outside. And that way, if they need to steal your key, they'll have to get it out of the lockbox and not come in your house and confront you, because they're after your car, not after confronting you. And when you look at it in context, it doesn't seem that crazy. And in fact, they've been trying to jam two sentences together, two responses, where he also said something about putting it in a Faraday bag, and it became, they said, put them outside in a Faraday bag. And that didn't make sense to me, so I had to look into it further. Apparently, that was to two different questions. Because what these people are really worried about, what people are doing is cloning keys. I guess it's something you can do nowadays. So if you put it in a Faraday bag, even if it's in your house, he was talking about in your house, put it in a Faraday bag. And then people can't come up to your door and clone it. I guess people are just coming up people's front window and cloning their car key. They're not even breaking in the house. So I guess the fear of them confronting you in your house is not one that most people would have, because it doesn't seem relevant here. But so all the things, when taken in context, they make sense. If you're really worried they're going to break in your house to get your key, then put it in a lockbox outside. If you're worried they're going to come to your front window and steal your coat, put your key in a Faraday bag. None of these things are that crazy. Now, I don't agree with the whole notion of, even if you're afraid they're going to break in. My opinion on what the advice you should give someone, what if they break in my house to steal my key and I'm there to have a confrontation? Well, my advice would be armed so you can shoot them in the face. But that's not likely to be the advice in Canada. So that's one of the reasons I don't live in Canada. But like I said, people want to take these stories and they want to twist them into something like, look, the police department is surrendering to the criminals. But when you really look at the story, it's not anywhere near that severe. And it literally took us in my chat 5 minutes to trace it down to where we could even see the transcripts of the questions and stuff from the town hall. It was where was it at? What's the name of the town? I've still got it here in front of it. At a Etobicoke community safety meeting last month. And it was a Constable Marco Riccardi. It was one person said one thing to specific people. Well, actually, he said two things to two specific people, and they kind of combined it into one thing later in the retellings. But it didn't make sense when I heard it, and it didn't make sense when I looked it up. But here's the things. Here's the advice. When you hear stories like this, these things aren't even newsworthy, much less worthy of all the fervor and getting videos made on it. It's fear-mongering. And when a story sounds like it doesn't make sense, research it. See if it makes sense. And then you can know, hey, that person that's pushing the story, and when it doesn't make sense and they're just telling me half the story, they're not putting it in context. They're like those people that cut like the middle 3 seconds out of a joke Trump will tell on stage and go, look, Trump's a Nazi because he said this. Well, yeah, it might sound like that if you just watch that 3 seconds of tape, but if you watch everything before and after, it's clear it was a facetious statement, part of a joke, whatever. And that's what these people do with these stories. They try to turn them into things to make you mad, to get you riled up, and to turn you against each other. And that's the last thing we need. We need to be paying attention to the politicians, not be worried about what each other believes. Like, ooh, the left or ooh, the right. We don't need to start doing that. If you think either the left or the right are right about everything, well, then you're a brainwashed slug, because neither side is working for our interests. They both need to keep us divided so that they can continue doing what they do without us paying attention to them. And these people that repeat these stories, you have to ask yourself, what's in it for them? When someone tells me something that is clearly designed to make me angry, what's in it for them? You don't win any fights getting angry. That's the quickest way to lose a battle, is to lose your head. Being mad doesn't do anyone any good. Makes people irrational. Makes them easy to control, easy to manipulate. So you have to ask yourself, when people like Colin Noir or Guns and Gadgets and these people tell you these stories that just make you mad, and Alex Jones, all these kind of people, why are they trying to make you mad? There's nothing to be gained from that. So obviously they're the ones gaining from it. So what are they gaining? So that's what I just wish people would do when they hear these little ridiculous stories, or this person's a Nazi, or these people said this. This story was not the police department telling anybody anything. It was one guy addressing a very specific concern in a small town hall. And yet somehow it's been turned into the Toronto Police Department just says you should leave your keys on the porch so people can have your car. It's not anything like that. Period. When you see it in any type of context, you can't even present it like that. You have to be intentionally dishonest to present it that way. But unfortunately, there's a lot of intentionally dishonest people in the world, especially in the gun community, because they make their money from fear-mongering and division. So keep that in mind. When you hear these stories that sound ridiculous, research them. We've got the internet at our fingertips. Don't just read blurbs. Search out source material. Trace back all those repeat stories to where they came from, and find out if they're a true telling of where the story came from. 90% of the time, be it a right-wing story or a left-wing story, you're going to find out it ain't nothing like the truth, what it eventually becomes. So do your research. And then after you've done your research, ask yourself, why did that person, who could have easily done their research, present this in a way to make me angry? Because that doesn't make me a good soldier. Doesn't make me someone who's going to get something done or make any change. It just makes me easily manipulated. And what do they have to gain from that? That's what you got to ask yourself. What do they have to gain from sowing fear? And then I think you'll figure out that the people you're listening to are people that you shouldn't be listening to at all.